Smart IT teams know that patching is super critical, but it can also be super risky. You push the wrong patch, and suddenly you've got a nightmare on your hands, right? Every IT person can relate to that. As a result, the tendency is to slow down. And because of it, vulnerabilities and missed patches kind of just sit there. So Jeff Hunter, Field CTO at NinjaOne, he's back on the channel to talk about how NinjaOne can help specifically close that gap between the patches that you wish you could deploy and the patches that actually need to be installed, right, to protect your environment. So Jeff, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Spencer. Pleasure to be back.
So real quick for everybody listening, make sure you stick around to the end of this video because Jeff and I are going to talk about how IT teams can actually patch faster while still reducing the risk and impact of those patches. What is something that IT teams don't realize they're missing in their vulnerability patch management program? Right quick before we get into the demo.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is that a lot of the times these systems are separated or bifurcated. You have the detection element, and then you have the remediation element, and then those are often two completely separate tools. They can often be two entirely separate teams or departments inside organizations that oftentimes maybe don't always communicate great with each other. And so I think that is a huge disconnect that has existed for years. Which is that you're going to scan, you're going to find these vulnerabilities, and then that's going to get handed off to an IT operations team or somebody who's in charge of patching. And there's no mapping there. You know, you have the vulnerability, but you don't know what the remediation is, or you don't have it tied to the device that you need to deploy the remediation on. And so that ends up becoming an exercise in manually mapping all these vulnerabilities to the devices, and it takes a really long time. And today we hope to show you a better path forward that's a lot faster and more streamlined.
And, you know, looking back on my IT career, one of the biggest issues that I had when I was an IT admin doing patching and vulnerability management was the visibility and getting that visibility in a timely manner, right? It took 30, 60, 90 days just to get some of these patches deployed because you had to chase this stuff down. So in a minute, we're going to talk about the number one thing IT admins worry about with patching. But first, Jeff, let's jump in the demo. Let's have you show us why this works so well.
And so here we have the main NinjaOne dashboard. I'm going to go to administration and then to apps, and then we're going to look at this vulnerability management tile that we see right here. And the first thing I want to talk about is that there is not just one single source for vulnerabilities as an option with NinjaOne. You actually have three. So one might be that you already have some sort of external tool that you're locked into, that you're using. And so what you can do is set up an export from that tool, usually via API. And then you would use the API of NinjaOne to upload that data on a recurring basis. And so what this means is that your other scanners like Tenable, like Qualys, like Rapid7, really any of these scan tools out there, this gives you the capability to automatically map your CVEs to the devices that actually have them inside the tool where you're actually already going to be doing the remediation of your patches or maybe deploying some sort of registry key fix in order to close off a zero-day exploit. And so here I would emphasize that you can see the scanning vendors we have, but this is designed to be generic. As long as you have a CSV with a list of the CVEs on the devices, and then something that we can use to correlate or match to what the device is inside of NinjaOne, you're then going to have that mapping that I mentioned earlier as being very time consuming. You're going to see that happen automatically. Now that's just one source. What if you're not using an external tool already? Let's go ahead and go back, and you'll see that we have the option for real-time software assessment here. And so what this is doing is taking information that NinjaOne already collects. And this information is the installed software and the installed versions of the software. And we would collect this for all these applications or all these operating systems that you see here. For instance, we can see everything for Windows. And what we're doing here is we're taking the information we already have and we're comparing that server side to see what potential exploits are impacting the specific version of software that is installed. So this is not a scan. This is not something that's going to have a lot of overhead on the device. It's not going to be a very intensive scan that you can't run in the middle of the day when somebody's working. It's not going to be something you have to plan. Maybe we do this once a week. Maybe we do it once a month. It's in real time. And this results in this vulnerabilities dashboard that we see here. And you can see the source here is NinjaOne software. And so any CVEs that we detect because we've intentionally put some outdated versions of the applications in this environment, we can see where those are impacting various devices. And so this is NinjaOne as its own source of truth here, not relying on anything external. Now, the third option here would be that we are displaying CVEs because we have detected missing patches on the device. Because we know that you're missing a particular Windows patch or a particular software patch, and because we know that the patch in question resolves a CVE, the absence of that patch being installed indicates that you're vulnerable to that CVE. So that's another method through which we're able to go ahead and tie the vulnerabilities to the devices. And this one is important because this one directly impacts your remediations. So let's go back into our tab right here. And so we can see when the source is NinjaOne patching that we're going to have something in the remediations column. And so I can actually click on this right here and see the specific KBs that would remediate this CVE, but I can also see where this stands in the overall approval process. So in this case, we can see that these patches are pending. If they were in the approved state, I would see that here, or if they were failed, I'd have that instant visibility about how to go forward and close off this particular CC. So in total, you've got 3 different options here. You have the real-time software assessment, you have the absence of an operating system patch on Windows or a software patch as well. We can see that here. And then finally, you would have the ability to integrate some sort of third-party tool, for example, Rapid7 here. So that way we're automatically importing from our third-party tool into NinjaOne to have that complete visibility. And so all of this in total gives us a way to see the vulnerabilities, map to the devices that have them, and then we also have the remediations here as well. And so if we go into our operating system patching here, we'll see the status of patch compliance for all the various devices in this environment. And then if we go into the pending bin here, you'll see these CVEs that would be remediated if we installed the patch, as well as the CVSS score here. We can even go and click on the KB right here, and this would take us to Microsoft so we could read up on the patch notes. So from here, if we needed to push out an extremely critical CVE, we can see here this is an 8.8 for Windows servers. I can select that. Now, I could approve it here, and it would be installed on my next regularly scheduled patch cadence, but I can also apply now. And so this would be immediate. Let's say I've got a 10.0 out of 10 on the CVSS score. I need to push it out ASAP. I would go ahead and I would apply now. So that way all of my devices would be protected. And this same style of workflow also operates for software patches as well. So Chrome Enterprise, a 9.8 on the CVSS score. I just select that right there, and I'm able to go ahead and instantly push that patch out and get my devices protected.
I mentioned there's one thing that IT teams worry about the most, and that's reliability. I think every IT admin has horror stories of when they push the patch and suddenly, there's 40 laptops that are no longer working and everybody's calling the help desk. So Jeff, help us understand, how IT teams can actually patch with more confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you there. I still have very bad memories of July 2013. Don't want to think about the bad patches that got pushed that month. But yeah, you're absolutely right in that the impact of a negative patch or a bad patch is probably something that is more familiar to people than, hey, we had some sort of really severe compromise. Just the odds of this work out that way. And so what NinjaOne offers to ensure that when you push out a patch, that it's going to have its desired impact is the KB analysis feature that we see right here. This is a feature called Patch Intelligence AI, and it's NinjaOne's AI scraping public information from public data sources, but then also using anonymized internal data on failure rates to show where we have potential issues with patches. For example, right here, this cumulative .NET framework update, this appears stable. We get information on the intended purpose here, any reported bugs, what the user sentiment is, and we can see that it's generally positive. We can push this patch out with confidence, knowing that there hasn't been any reported issues. However, we can see that some of these have known issues down here. So if we look, for example, at this server update, we can see that there's bug fixes in here, but we can also see reported issues with WSUS not working right. Now, in this particular case, I'm not using WSUS. I'm using NinjaOne. So it doesn't impact me. And I can then go ahead and say, well, the bug that's being reported here doesn't really impact me. So I'm able to go ahead and push this patch out to my fleet, knowing that I'm not using WSUS and this isn't going to impact me. And so this gives you additional information. It's not just, is the patch good or bad? It's what specifically about this patch is going to negatively impact my environment. And if that's not relevant, I can go ahead and push that out. Now, I don't expect that anybody is going to be coming in here and reading all of these every single day. We do want to go ahead and automate this. And so inside of our Windows policies here, we can go to OS patching, we can go down to the very bottom, and you'll see the patch intelligence AI approval overrides. So when we have a known issue here, we're going to go ahead and take this out of the automated cadence that we have for regularly deploying patches, and we're going to move it back into a manual state here so we can do what I just did and review the KB analysis to find out if the negative impact of this patch is relevant for me and my fleet. Now, an element of this that really helps is time delaying your patches for deployment. So I can go ahead and say I want to automatically approve critical updates, but I want to wait a week. And so after that week, these patches would be released, and Patch Intelligence AI would have that week to gather data, gather insight, and then to make that decision of, does this patch have any known issues and we should withhold it from the deployment process, or whether we should continue on and release it, and it continues to be installed and deployed to all of our devices.
So the biggest thing I want to stress here that I like is that you can move from reactive to proactive, right? And you can have the confidence and kind of the lack of anxiety and stress, right, of pushing out a bad patch. And, you know, when minutes and hours matter more than ever, when threat actors are abusing vulnerabilities and they're moving faster than ever, it's more and more and more important to be able to move quickly on these patches and these vulnerabilities. So huge thanks to you, Jeff, from NinjaOne, on showing us this demo and showing us Patch Intelligence AI and all the features. If you want to learn more about NinjaOne and their vulnerability management features and Patch Intelligence AI, you can check out the link in the description.